problems such as education, unemployment, good sanitation, and gender inequality. He is a partner at Black Adam Africa, a boutique private equity and transactional advisory firm, providing small and growing businesses in Africa across to financing through its investor network. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Ato Bensi Enchil on the stage. Please give him a round of applause.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to, first of all, thank the organizers of this event for inviting me to this youth Konverse. I actually flew in from Ghana a couple of days ago, and it was a very good trip. It was probably made better by the fact that I didn't have to pack that many things. I've been on this new minimalist route. You see me in my kaftan right here. So you wake up, just throw 5 kaftans in your suitcase, and you're good to go. For those of you who haven't met yet, my name is Ato, and as Yvonne rightly said, I'm a World Economic Forum global shaper and an entrepreneur. And I really wouldn't bother you with the details of what I do right now. But what I'm going to do is spend my time with you sharing 5 principles that I've carried along with me in my journey to make me the person I am today. So if you have a notebook, I'd suggest just taking a couple of notes. You might be able to learn a couple of things from me. So the first principle that I follow daily is to surround myself with people who are better than me, who are smarter than me. And all through this entrepreneurial journey, I'm actually glad to say that I've never been the smartest person in the room. Now, wait, that doesn't mean that I don't have anything to contribute, but I actively seek out partners whose weaknesses are my strengths and whose strengths are my weaknesses. So for example, in starting my first company, Revision Prep, which is an online education company that helps students prepare better for the first national exam, I reached out to one of my very good friends who I know. His name is Ike, right? And short story about me and Ike. Ike is probably the only person I've known my whole life who beat me at first place in class since we were kids. One of my first friends, but from, I think, class 1 to class 3, I was always top in the class, and the next thing you know, Ike comes out to nowhere, and he's first throughout till we graduate. And, some people will be actually taken aback by this happening and probably get jealous and be like, who's this Ike kid? What's he doing, taking my position? But I kind of said to myself, this is someone that I need to keep around me. And, I'm not using him or anything, but I know that he's very good at math, he's very good at financial modeling. And my strengths are in networking, building strategy, and executing on those plans for companies. So when we come together, he plays on his strengths, I play on my strengths, and we actually make a very good team, pushing whatever business we have forward. So, one thing I'd say about that is just to remember that your purpose lies in your strengths. So the second principle is to take pride in your name. And I learned this from my grandfather. He always used to say, even if you don't come from anything, you have the potential to be something. And that's what he used to build his legacy. And with that comes the responsibility of being ethically and morally, of acting ethically and morally in all your business dealings. So through everything that I've witnessed and been through, I know that your reputation actually matters. And I believe it was Warren Buffett that actually said this, that it takes 20 years for you to build your reputation and only 5 minutes to ruin it, right? And if you think about that, you do things differently. As far as I'm concerned, I have a duty to myself and to my family to let my name be synonymous with excellence and also to maintain the standards that my predecessors have set. So in everything I do, I try to leave a good impression of the Bensi Enchil name and not bring disgrace to people that I hold dearest to me. Number 3, I'd say be yourself, be who you are, where you are. So a lot of people like to think that when I get this and that, then I'll be able to do this and that. And I think, for example, you hear people say, when I get rich, then I'd give to charity. But I think that's a wrong approach to giving. So if you want giving to be truly a part of your being, and you give when you have none, and that attitude will stay with you the rest of your life. So what do you want to become in the future? What vision do you have for yourself and your country? What does living my best life mean to you? So why wait? Start to practice the skills, principles, and character you want to become in the future. Everything comes full circle. And when you start being that person you want to be in the future today, everything becomes so much more easier. So if you want to be a writer, you write. If you want to be the best accountant, start offering your services. If you really see whatever activity you yearn to be part of your future now, I challenge you to make that move today. And I give a short example of me growing up. My mom used to own this hair and nail studio in Airport Residential in Accra. And as a 12-year-old, when I got off of school for a vacation, I actually went to her and be like, Mom, I'm not doing anything this summer. I'd like to go look over the studio for you. And that was her side hustle. She worked at Unilever as well. And at 12 years old, I was a guy who's my dad would drop me at the studio in the morning. I'd sweep the place, clean up, get the place ready for clients that are coming in. When someone comes in, take their name, offer them coffee, ask them if they're comfortable, give them a magazine, make sure the workers are doing the right thing, everything's happening on time. After, present a receipt, and make sure that this person comes back. And at the end of the day, I would call my mom up. We made XXX today. We need this and that in stock. We're running out of this and that. And I realized that now, with what I do right now, one of the things that I do is own a co-working space in the same spot, actually, the same place where my mom had the nail studio. I rent from her, and I have a co-working space running there. And I see myself doing the same things I used to do those days. While that was unconscious, I was unconsciously doing all those things. Now I wake up in the morning, get to the office, sweep up, mop, make sure the place is ready for my people to start coming in. And I start calling whoever, asking them if they're coming in today. Or if they come in, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they get the Wi-Fi password, and they're good to work. And after they're leaving, I hand them the receipt and make sure that I get these people back in here. So that's something I started practicing from when I was very young, and now, thankfully, I'm able to rent the space from my mom and continue using the space, maximizing the space. The fourth thing I'd say, actually, is to make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. But I'm going to add a caveat to this and say, but remember, not every opportunity is the right opportunity. And I know there's a bunch of us here who are thinking, Africa is full of problems, and like everyone else complaining about these problems, I'm actually, doing something to solve these problems. I view them as opportunities. And that's a good mindset to have. But before anything else, I challenge everyone to understand to find their purpose and their vision. So I've been passionate about building businesses since I started selling my lunch, literally at 12 years old. I used to sell to my friends in school because they liked, the kind of stuff that I was bringing. I was like, wait, I could easily, go back home and get something else to eat, but I'd sell this right now to whoever. Then I moved on to designing T-shirts. I used to write them on the back of my shirt, go to physical ed, and everybody now wanted their names on the back of their shirts. I made money from that. Jay-Z's come to Ghana, Eve has come to Ghana. I'd get money from my parents, buy 5 tickets, and sell them at double the price. I was just that kind of person. And throughout this experience, I've come to realize how difficult it is for African founders to find sustainable growth capital for their businesses. And as someone who prefers collective growth to individual, I took it upon myself to partner with these companies and act as their fundraising arm. I've been able to build valuable connections from going to boarding school in the States and eventually going to university there as well. And now I'm more than willing to share my connections and experiences with these founders I partner up with. So I've been able to focus my attention on where I could be most impactful by first finding out what my vision, my purpose is. I think that's very important. So figure out always go according to plan. It means you nurture your network and relationships. Always reach out to people, ask them questions. The most important question I ask is why. You catch me telling somebody, they explain something to me, I'm like, why? Why? Till you understand, you deeply understand what's going on. And finally, to take intelligent risks. For every action, you measure out the positives and the negatives, and you listen to your gut feeling, then execute. This will keep you agile and resilient, as I have throughout my journey as an entrepreneur. And last but not the least, I talk about my faith. This is a 6th point, actually, sorry. But I talk about my faith. And I'm not sure how many people here are practicing Christians, but I'd say this. Ever since I made God a 51% partner in all my businesses, things have actually been going very well for me. I listen to him. He drives my thoughts, my words, and my deeds. And I felt better with the work that I do, impacting people's lives. And, I just find the right opportunities like this one coming my way from places I don't expect. I joined the Global Shapers through somebody who reached out to me asking me whether I'd want to join it. Next thing you know, I'm here in Kigali. I was in Abidjan last 2 weeks through the same Global Shapers network. Opportunities just keep coming from left and right, and I'm very appreciative of that. And, even when I feel like I'm faltering, I'm driven to twist whatever situation I find myself in from a negative to a positive. And that's just by keeping the mindset that everything I'm doing is part of the process, part of the plan, and God has a plan for me. So thank you very much. These are my 5 principles. I'd go over them again: to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, to take pride in your name, to be who you are where you are, make the most of every opportunity that comes your way, and to never stop learning. And of course, if you believe in something that's greater than you or more powerful than you, have faith in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Ato Entry. Is there someone with a question? By show of hand, I can bring the microphone and he can answer the questions. Well, I'll give 2 questions to the crowd for timekeeping. No questions yet? Okay, there is one question here. Please introduce yourself and where you're from, and then you can ask the question.
Hello, my name is Gédéon Mouziguero. I come from DRC, Congo. My question will be in French, because I'm French. J'ai suivi ces séances. Il y a quelque chose qui est très intéressant dans ce qu'il a dit, et parmi les principes. Mais je voulais poser la question de savoir. Moi, c'est mon expérience personnelle. J'ai commencé le business à 23 ans. J'ai commencé avec une sous-traitance dans une société de télécom. Et après, je suis tombé 2 ans après. Donc, je pense qu'il y avait un problème de mes gestions. Ça me dépassait la capacité. Et cela a entré, comment je vais dire, a sali un peu ma réputation. Et c'est quelque chose sur lequel je suis attaché. C'est quelque chose dont je suis passionné. Maintenant, je ne suis pas venu à me relancer encore dans le marketing de distribution. J'ai les usines de la région ici à pouvoir avoir le marché à l'est du Congo. Mais il y a quelque chose que j'ai déjà fait avant et qui a entaché sur la réputation. Et moi-même, ça me diminue, ça dévalue. Et à un certain moment donné, on se rend compte qu'on a des questions qu'on est toujours en train de régler derrière qui risquent de compromettre aussi la nouvelle entreprise qu'on a eue. Face à une situation comme celle-là, où la banque ne vous aide pas même la famille, vous avez vous-même à combattre et il y a une situation antérieure qui est en train de vouloir récupérer la nouvelle entreprise que vous faites alors que vous devez être focalisé sur la passion que vous voulez. Que faire?
Thank you very much. I'll try to translate the question. So the gentleman here, he comes from Congo, and his question is, 3 years ago he started a business, and then around 2 years later, the business failed. And the business, he went with his reputation. So the brand of his business and everything that goes around the reputation has been tarnished by that failure. And then right now, he started again in the distribution and marketing channels in another business. But then in situations where, when he's doing business and a past history, which the failure is still, sort of tarnishing his reputation, what would he do, and what would be your advice in that case? I guess I translated well, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that I don't necessarily think your failures defined you. I've had a couple businesses that have failed myself. And I actually want to ask, what was the reason that the business failed? Because that kind of changed the context of what we're discussing. But I'm going to assume it's nothing that you did personally. You didn't, embezzle money or pay bribes left, right, and center. But understanding that your failures don't define you and actually working to prove yourself that, you've learned from your mistakes, whatever mistakes possibly that made that fail, you've learned from them, and, you're moving towards a path of, being a better business manager and whatnot.
Okay. Do I need to?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the last phrase, that's why I didn't get.
Sorry?
The last phrase.
I don't remember what I said.
Okay, could we have the translation?
Don't
mic
let your
for them?
failures
Yeah,
define you.
Thank you.
And, make sure you, sorry, I forget. Learn from your mistakes. Thank you.
Ce qu'il a dit, c'est qu'il ne faut pas laisser vos échecs vous définir, surtout quand il s'agit de votre business. Et il a essayé aussi de poser une question qu'il espère que la raison pour laquelle votre business n'a pas pu marcher est que vous n'avez pas fait quelque chose d'illégal. Et ce qu'il a dit, c'est que ne laissez pas vos échecs antérieurs vous définir. Et aussi continuer avec le courage et avec effort en ce que vous faites maintenant. Thank you very much. I have time for one more question. Any more questions in the room? Please assist the gentleman over there.
I'm Mutunji Stefan. I'm CEO of Toambale, a speedy e-commerce platform for clothes in Kampala.
Thank you. I think so.
My question is around mentorship. Around mentorship, because you realize that most of the times, most of our businesses fail because we do not know what to do when. For example, sometimes we burn a lot of our operating cash on long-term vision or long-term implementations foregoing the immediate operations. So we reach a point where we cannot raise more cash, but and our businesses can't survive anymore. So how did you go around? Did you find a mentor, or did you get an external funding partner for you? Thank you.
So the kind of thing that I do, I didn't really need money to start. I financed it from my savings, at least setting up the co-working space. I financed that from my savings. But mentorship is actually a very important thing. And I think I mentioned that my grandfather and my mom are two people that I look up to in business and in life. So essentially, they acted as my mentors. Any question I had, I could reach out to them and ask regarding certain business or life decisions. Going about finding a mentor. So there's a lot of people who actually reach out. They see someone who looks influential and ask them to be their mentor. They ask straight out the bat, can you mentor me? I don't think it really works like that. If you want to get something from someone, you have to show them the value that you're bringing to them themselves, right? So I'd suggest you find someone that you want to mentor. You figure out how you can help that person do whatever they're doing, right? And then in turn, once they see the value that you're bringing to them, they would be able to give you their time. Because honestly, a lot of people are very busy, and asking them to mentor you, get on a phone call with you for an hour, 2 hours every week, could actually put a strain on their time. But if you show them that you bring them something valuable, they'd be more than willing to help you in whatever situation, with whatever you need. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Ato Bensi, and thank you for attending to all the questions. Introducing our next speaker. She comes from Kenya, Nairobi. Her name is Liz Mwange, and she's a global shaper from the Nairobi Hub. She is the Deputy Director Investments for East Africa Trade and Investment in Kenya. Liz is currently the Deputy Director for Investment at the East Africa Trade and Investment, and she has over 10 years of finance and investment experience in business and entrepreneurship development, investment facilitation, trade facilitation, project management, financial advisory, risk management, business strategy, and planning. She regularly mentors entrepreneurs. And there goes your question. I think Liz will be your lady. And please welcome Liz on the stage.
Hi, everyone. I choose to speak from down here. Hope that's still fine. And hopefully I'll have a question to both the entrepreneurs that spoke. So as I've been introduced, I currently work for a project that's funded by the US government called the East Africa Trade and Investment Hub. And we help companies access the US market through the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which is just a big word for duty-free access that African companies have the advantage of, US buyers have the advantage of sourcing products from East Africa. But I work on the investment side, and my work is to see how companies that need financing to be able to meet the export needs are able to get this financing. But today I'm not going to start from what I do now. I'm going to go back a little bit from my early career journey. So I've been working now for 10 years. As I've been introduced, there's so many things that I've done, and I'll go into some of that. So I started my career at Deloitte in 2009, 2008, 2009. So I did audit internship, then I moved on to advisory. Then I did that for about 1.5 years. You get good exposure, you get to learn about different companies in different industries. You get to learn about, how basically to run a company better, because you're really evaluating the companies for risk. I did that for about 2 years, and at some point, because what happens is that you go audit, you go in cycles. Every year a company has to be audited, and I did that for about 2 times, and I was like, you know what, I think, because if the company is not implementing what you're giving as opinions and really analyzing as risks, then they're not improving, I felt that, I can't do this for like 3, 4, 5 years. So I really started to think, what can I do differently? And I was at a point where, I'd studied my undergrad in Kenya. I was looking at going into, doing something globally. So I saw in the newspaper an application for scholarships, and they were looking for, it was a school in Italy, looking for people to apply for scholarships. So I applied, and miraculously I got to do the interviews, and when they asked me, because I had 2 years of experience, and I wanted to do an MBA, which was starting from 3 years of experience. And after the interview, they asked me, so do you want to do a master's in international relations? And I was like, international relations? I don't want to sort of like go into government. I wasn't too sure what it was about, but I just said yes. I was like, then I quickly came up with a phrase to say, this is something that I would be interested in if the opportunity was there. And the opportunity did come up, and I did get to go and study. And it was very competitive, because out of 500 applicants, I got chosen, and I got chosen for something that I initially didn't want. So I got to study in Italy for a year. Very interesting, because it was the first time outside of the country in Europe, first time in really understanding how, how education is in a different part of the world. And also, I had about 11 countries represented in our class. So first time learning about, Mexico, Colombia. And one of the things that I learned is that we learned a lot about Europe, but they didn't learn anything about Africa, which was an interesting perspective. Then I came back, and I decided that I didn't want to go back to audit. I wanted to move to the development finance world. I started strategizing my career to go into that line. And to be honest, it wasn't easy, because you come back with a master's, you think that now everyone will value you, they'll be like, oh, recognizing, you've studied more, you'll be more they look at you better if you're applying for jobs. And I realized that you need to plan more, especially if you're moving careers, because all the jobs I apply to, they're still audit people calling me, telling me, oh, come back. And I really had made my mind that I want to move. So it took about 3 years to really settle in to the development finance space, which is one of the key learnings. If you're persistent in what you want to do, if you're sure of what you want to do, just keep at it despite all the voices that are telling you, no, why change? There's opportunity somewhere else. So currently, I built my experience working in different organizations, some on short-time basis, just because you're called to do this. They say it's 6 months. I say take the chance, because you get to learn something new, and something new that will add up into your experience, and something that you'll find value in. So if you do have the opportunity, especially in a line that you want to work in, definitely do that. And so after 3 years of doing different things, working in different financial institutions, building my skills, I decided, I had now good experience to work in different firms. And so I got the opportunity to work at the Hub. My boss just approached me on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. Please make sure you have updated your profile, and you actually go out and seek opportunities from LinkedIn as well. Because the thing about job hunting and looking for opportunities is that as much as it's HR that coordinate the process, it's the technical people that hire. So you need to reach out. If you're looking at being an accountant, reach out to the chief accountant, because he's the one who needs somebody to do something. And sometimes if you just approach HR, or if you approach if you just approach opportunities that are open, your chances are limited, because then they're opening up to so many people. So if you do have opportunities to actually approach people on LinkedIn, see if they have opportunities there, or get the emails of technical people and see if they're hiring, that would work well. I got my internships after my master's through that. I wrote to specific organizations that I wanted to work in, because I knew that was sort of like the skill that I wanted to gain. So currently, as I said, my boss approached me on LinkedIn, told me, there's this opportunity working in a USAID-funded project. What do you think about it? She didn't even send me the job description initially, just described it, and I was like, okay, let's have a meeting and let me see if this is something that I can do. And that's just how it started. It's been a very interesting career, because working for a big donor like the US government, the opportunities are wide in terms of what they're targeting and what they're looking at. And of course, with a trade and investment project, you're really looking at impacting on really the economic development spheres. So we usually work to help promote companies' export. And one of the things that has brought is really enabling me be able to assess different opportunities for companies, because all companies are not the same. A startup is very different from a growing company, and their needs are different. And one of the things that we do is, because we do a lot of support for companies to access funding, so we do a lot of investor linkages, and we usually see what are some of the barriers that companies have to access funding. I'm not going to go into deep detail about them, but I'm just going to talk about some of the ones that at startup level. I think maybe that was the question that I think two of the entrepreneurs had. I think what we've seen at startup level is that you need to really define your business proposition and define it well. It's not just about having a good written proposal on paper, but can you implement it? If you're one person, how can you build a team to implement it? I mean, as you rightly said, if you've had one business, what have you learned from it to make a different business better? And there's a lot of funding currently in the market, but it's funding that, the other thing is it suited for the type of company that you have? So that's the first thing that we try to understand from entrepreneurs. How good is the business model? And there's lots of due diligence checklists that are even available online. And you can use it as a person who's starting out your business, because all investors will ask the same question. So I think doing a lot of research and being ahead in terms of that will really help. And to be honest, given that there's a lot of funding in the market, how then are you, positioning yourself to be able to receive that funding? I think that those are some of the key areas. In terms of mentorship, it's very important that if you're in a particular industry, try and get the people who are active in that industry to mentor you. I spoke to a few entrepreneurs, and a lot of them, they say, a lot of the people who are willing to mentor, are much older, have been in the industry, have gotten out, but how they usually want, people who are within the same, who are experiencing what they're experiencing now. So that's one area. And just feel free to approach them, because I don't think it's about them stealing your idea, because there's always that sort of like perception. I think if you're there to learn, and if they see that you're eager, they can give you the advice that you need. So do seek mentors, but mentors that are in your industry. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to why I joined Global Shapers, because I believe that it's a very important community for young people who want to grow, want to learn, but above all want to be global citizens. And the reason why it's important for you to really understand, because when you sit here in your country, in Africa, and you're closed off from the rest of the world, there's so many things that you probably don't understand, you don't know how to leverage. But leveraging a network such as the Global Shapers has been very important for me, because first of all, as a hub in Nairobi, we are all experts, entrepreneurs, we learn a lot from each other. But the other thing is that we also get to implement projects that are outside of maybe what we do professionally, which adds some level of fulfillment. We do have shapers who have gone on to do things like in cybersecurity. We had a law, and people needed to understand what that law was about. So I wouldn't be able to understand it the way I do now, but because we had a team that was working on it internally as a hub, we were able to really understand it better and put this information out there. So you're given an opportunity to do the things that you can't do in your workplace. You're given an opportunity to lead projects. Then, of course, there's the whole global network that you can tap into. Like, for example, you can go for events globally. And it's not, you can get some of them funded. So it's very important that you join networks such as this, so that you remain very much aware of what's happening globally. And also you're able to compare. Because honestly, when you do go for forum events, you meet global shapers from other parts of the world. You're able to understand, just how different, Asia is or China is, and shapers from there. And you're able to understand what are some of the things that their governments are doing, or what are some of the opportunities that they have. And it helps you start to understand, we can be more competitive in these ways as opposed to others. So I would really encourage you to try and, as much as possible, get into global networks. And for Global Shapers, we are not elitist. I know people think that. You can join in any, it's even open. You can, on the website, you can be able to just join any hub that you're in across the different countries that you are. So I just want to also briefly touch on a few areas that I think are important, which have been important to me. I think first is, number one, as I said, go for opportunities. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you, because, the world and where we are now, it's very competitive, extremely competitive. So approach the opportunities that you want, but approach them well, have a plan, have a strategy. And as I said, LinkedIn is a powerful tool. Try and use that. The other thing is, I'd say, avoid group mentality. Think and act for yourself. I know as young people, you have friends, you have cliques, and you try to maintain them, but at the end of the day, look out for your own interests, and don't go with the hard. Go for the opportunities that you want. And the other thing is also, like, for example, if your sort of parents are telling you go for this, because you're the only one who understands where you're strong, where you're weak, but you're the only one who understands what you can do. So I would say stick with your gut feeling. And then, Yeah, lastly, I have two quotes that I just want to share with you. So the first one is, and it goes about to, it just sticks in line with being a global citizen, is if you grow up only eating your mother's chapatis, who knows what chapatis are? Yeah. So if you grow up only eating your mother's chapatis, you'll grow up believing they are the best. Yeah? Then the second one is, which I like, is from Jim Rohn, which says, motivation alone is not enough. If you have an idiot and you motivate him, and now you have a motivated idiot. So please, let's not be motivated idiots. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Liz, please. Liz, without leaving your place here, do we have two questions for Liz? I'd like to see by show of hand. Okay, I'll give the microphone to the gentleman here. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and you may ask your question.
My name is Saidi. I'm from DRC, but I will speak in French. Okay. Swahili maybe it can be difficult. Yeah, difference in Swahili of Congo and Swahili of Kenya. Okay. En fait, j'ai, disons, deux questions, des préoccupations. Parce qu'en parlant de votre parcours, vous avez travaillé dans les conseils et vous vous êtes retrouvé dans l'humanitaire, dans l'investissement. Moi, je disais que vous avez travaillé dans les conseils des lois, d'après ce que vous avez dit. Après, vous êtes passé dans l'humanitaire et puis maintenant vous êtes dans l'investissement, de la finance et tout. Et donc, disons, votre parcours est un peu, disons, zigzag, je peux dire ça comme ça. Alors, je voudrais quand même dire, personnellement, je suis intéressé par les domaines du conseil. Et il y a de cela quelques années, on a commencé une start-up pour apporter du conseil aux petites, petites entreprises au Congo. Et une des choses auxquelles nous avons été butés, c'est que, bon, c'est vrai que nous avions un peu une vie beaucoup plus idéaliste sur les produits que nous pouvions offrir au marché. Parce que la plupart des entreprises, des micro-entreprises au Congo ont un grand problème en termes de gestion. Et nous nous étions dit que voilà, on pouvait développer un produit qui pourrait leur apporter à la fois les outils en termes de formation, mais également pour pouvoir gérer leur business. Mais après avoir monté ces startups-là, nous nous sommes rendus compte que les gens ne comprennent pas absolument ce que nous leur proposons. Parce que vous avez insisté sur la value proposition, vous avez insisté sur la valeur de la proposition. Et donc, nous, on a cette proposition qui est celle de pouvoir apporter de la formation, mais les gens ne comprennent pas. Et vous qui avez travaillé dans les conseils, c'est vrai que vous ne travaillez pas avec des micro-entreprises, vous travaillez avec les grandes, mais comment vous faites pour que les gens comprennent un peu l'économie matérielle? Parce que ce n'est pas un produit. Comment vous faites pour que les gens comprennent un peu ce marché-là? Ma deuxième préoccupation, c'est beaucoup plus votre parcours académique. Vous êtes passé de l'humanitaire à la finance. Comment vous avez fait pour traverser comme ça? Vous avez fait comment? Parce que votre parcours académique, je ne sais pas moi, comment ça vous a permis de traverser ces mondes-là? Merci.
Right, before I answer the question. So you talked about providing advisory services to microfinance institutions in Congo. Yes. To the people, to the enterprises. Yes. Okay, so I think there was also the question of how I moved careers from, well, I wouldn't say humanitarian, but yeah. So moving careers, that was, I think for me, I look at what I'm going into and how that's impacting what I want and what I want to do. Do I want to learn? Will I be learning something new? Am I technically capable of doing it? Because Whatever makes or breaks your career is your ability to be able to deliver on something. And the other thing that I also look at is, just the level of impact, because for me it was very clear that I wanted to be able to work more on the business side, but also helping them get the funding that they need. So those are kind of like maybe the main pointers that helped me, in each and every opportunity that I was exploring, understand if this was an opportunity that I would want to go for or not. Moving into the hub was not very difficult because I got the opportunity relatively easily, I would say. But now being at the hub and looking for my next opportunity, it's something that I've really thought about, what do I want to do? Where can I impact most? Regarding your advisory for enterprises, I think there's, I worked in the microfinance rating world for a bit. So, and there I was helping microfinance institutions access funding. And one of the main and key indicators that, investors were looking for is how are these microfinance institutions impacting the enterprises? How are they impacting, not just by giving money, but even in terms of the information they provide and helping this, whoever is helping the clients be able to understand I'm borrowing and what that interest translates to my business. So in terms of price transparency, and I believe that a lot of advisory firms actually sprung out of that in terms of being champions for helping create a lot of transparency around that, and a lot of education, training, financial literacy. Those are definitely areas that came up. So I think, I can't answer fully because I need to understand, why did you fail, and maybe go into details of how you can change your strategy. But if this is something that you're still doing, but I think that it's a conversation that we can have, separately. Yeah.
Just for housekeeping rules, for the next question, could you keep it to one question so that we can move forward with time? Thank you. The gentleman there from DRC as well will have a question.
This session seems to be DRC1. Sorry. But my question is related to your work, because you said you are working with East African trade and investment, something like that. And a few years ago, I was working for a company like a marketing manager. And I saw that, my country is considered like the market for all the products that are processed in Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Kenya, and everywhere. But I saw that my people are losing purchase capacity because they don't have any other resource. The only thing that we can give is, how can we call it, raw material. And this raw material, I'd move in French. Ces matières premières, c'est comme par exemple les soja et l'huile de palme et toutes les autres choses. Et nous les produisons parce qu'il y a les agriculteurs, mais ça sert seulement à la consommation locale. Pourtant, au Rwanda, par exemple, je travaille pour aider certaines usines d'ici à introduire leurs produits sur le marché. Et ils ont besoin de ces mêmes matières premières pour qu'ils transforment l'habit, pour qu'ils transforment ceci. Mais on est buté à la question des standards pour exporter cela. Pourtant, la seule consommation locale ne donne pas du pouvoir d'achat aux agriculteurs. Qu'est-ce que votre travail pour aider Qu'est-ce que votre travail peut faire pour aider à pouvoir atteindre les standards et à accéder au marché régional pour l'exportation de ces produits agricoles bruts? Et le deuxième volet, c'est aussi, il est lié à la question comme j'étais en train de le dire, mais je crois que ce n'est pas dans cette session que je vais la poser. Je la poserai dans une session, mais par rapport aux standards, que fait votre travail pour aider? Merci.
Okay, to translate for you, Liz, the gentleman is asking for where he comes from in DRC. They produce the raw materials, which are also needed for the producers here regionally, here in Rwanda, in Burundi, and around the region. And he's asking, there is a lot of market for companies here in Rwanda to export it to Congo. However, the ones who are producing the raw materials, the suppliers, are meeting a standards barrier to get the raw materials within other, to export them to regional markets. What is your work doing to help facilitate this?
Right. Thank you for that question. So what we do is we support companies. We don't focus so much on the raw material because we want it to be processed. So what we're doing is encouraging processing here in this part of the region. And what we do is build the capacity of the companies to understand, based on the market that you're selling to, in this case, for example, if it's the US, what are the quality standards that are required. And these quality standards are not just in the processing, but also in accessing the raw material. Because if you want coffee of a certain grade, of a certain flavor, it has to be grown in a certain way. So what that happens is the capacity that we provide in terms of the knowledge and the information on standards and what is required is, filtered down to, for example, if it's the smallholder farmers, because they need to understand how they're going to process right. Because then the coffee that they make, they produce, will have a market. Outside of standards, we also support companies understand who or where they can source, US buyers, because you have to sell to them this region. You have to sell to them the opportunity. You have to sell to them, that this raw material is coming from Congo, because the consumers are changing. They want to understand the story of where the product is made. They just don't want to buy as a result of that it's a low price. They want to buy quality, but they also want to know the story behind the product. So it's understanding which buyers are willing to source their products from here. And we also do two-way missions. So we take the buyers from the US here, and we take companies from here to the US, so that in both sides, you're able to understand how to do business from both aspects. For the companies here, we prepare them for meeting the buyers. So we prepare them because as much as there is an investment readiness program to get investment, there is an export readiness program, and it takes a lot, because you have to also understand how do you package your products, where do you promote your products, what channels do you use so that you get your products to the market you want to at a right price, because the global trade aspect is very competitive and it's very price sensitive. So you have to understand logistics, warehousing, distribution, marketing and promotion, sampling. We have sessions just to take companies through the sampling process. How do you send your samples to the US? What kind of, now how many times do you send samples? Who pays for the samples? These kinds of things. The other thing that we also do is once the market linkages have happened, once you've met your buyer, then we come in and support you on the financing to be able to get that. And the other thing that we do is for maybe not for food products, but for things like home decor and fashion accessories, we bring in consultants who enable you understand what are the trends, for example, in the US that are coming up, what are the colors, what are people demanding for the next season, because the US market is seasonal. Yeah. So specifically to DRC, because as you rightly said, there's a lot that maybe is being imported into the country, and you're a source of raw materials. It could be something that we could explore and see which programs support entrepreneurs in DRC on trade, because we're not the only ones who do trade programs. There are many other people doing trade programs. So how we don't focus on DRC, but maybe there are others that do. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Liz. Introducing our next speaker. Her name is Dominique Uwase Alonga. Many of you have heard from her. She's from here in Rwanda. She's the founder of Imagine We Rwanda. Dominique is a multi-talented Rwandan blogger, author, and entrepreneur who won prizes in youth entrepreneurship competition, including Imbuto Foundation's prestigious Celebrating Young Rwandan Achievers, or in other words, CIRGWA. She is the driving force behind Imagine Rwanda, a non-governmental organization which publishes original books by local authors to boost the reading culture among Rwandans by offering them material that they can easily relate to. In her blog, she argues that the best way to boost opportunities for our youth is by empowering them to discover the potentials and value their talents and abilities to innovate and find solutions within themselves. Please welcome Dominique Wase Alonga.
My sister was like, I'm not going to use the stage. And I was like, eish, I'm wearing a whole shirt to be on this stage. So anyway, I'll stand here as you guys see my cute face on the screen. You know, gorgeous, gorgeous things. Like he said, my name is Dominique Alonga. I am a storyteller, and I love conversations. And I'm very grateful to be here today, sharing my journey, who I am, and where I think I'm going, which might change in the coming years. Ooh, fancy things. So my story begins in 1992. I was a really cute baby. I was born in the DRC Congo, Mwanamboka, confirm, to a Rwandan mother and an absentee Congolese father. As many would know, life hasn't always been kind to people of African descent. We've run away from wars, we've run for our lives, and we've run from our identities. I remember in P5, we had a family meeting. My sister, my brother, and of course my mom. And we begged my mom to give us Rwandan names, Kinyarwanda names, because we didn't belong in school. We were Congolese. My name was Alonga, which was conversation for a lot of making of jokes. And my sister had gone through the same because her name is also Alonga. So we came home, we sat and we were like, we need some Kinyarwanda names. And that's where Wase came from. There was a little bit of suggestions here and there, and we decided, you know what, we're going to get names. So we all got some names, and we chose names that were easy to communicate, were easy for us to belong in the space that we were trying to be in, yeah? All I wanted, I think, and I think that many of us relate to this, is to belong. And from there, I think I sacrificed a little bit of my identity. And growing up, one of the questions I had was, who am I? Who am I? It's still a question that I ask myself. And one of the things that is okay, and I would like to say, it's okay to not be sure of where you're standing. It's okay to not be sure of where you're going. Because life has a way to just lead you forward if you don't give up. So I slowly rejected the last name Alonga. I would stress the Uwase part throughout high school because being rejected hurts, hey? So I'd get defensive or even angry when someone recognized the Congolese in me. Every time I was caught, I would say, no, no, because at the time there was another teacher, his name was Malonga, and he was on TV teaching math on RTV, hello. And so they connected us. They were like, oh, there's a Congolese. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't know him. I don't know anything about it because I just wanted to belong. But the thing about trying to belong everywhere is you will always reject a part of who you truly are. I was so scared of even embracing that part of myself that it was just easy to lie and to pretend. And those are things that in this society, in the African society as well at large, we have this politically correct way of talking because we're always trying to belong. And I'm on a journey to be who I truly feel I am, to be who I truly feel resonates with me. And it takes some courage to say, you know what, this is where I'm going to stand, even though not a lot of people want to stand there. When we ran from the Congo, we lost material goods, obviously, memories, and also families. I have nothing or very little from my Congolese heritage. And it's just now, literally this year, that these little parts of me are trying to rise back up. It is only in 2016 that I started embracing my last name, Alonga, and be proud of it and say, you know what, that's who I am. I am mixed. I am half Rwandan and half Congolese, hey? I am Pan-African and I am human as well. I was saved by my mother. I love my mother. She's hands down my hero. When we were running, she kept telling us stories. She said, you know, hey, look, people are sleeping. She saved my sister, my brother, and I from the trauma of being young and seeing people dead on the street by telling us that they were just sleeping, that we're going on a trip, we're going on vacation, yet we were running and hiding. And I never connected with that part because I related with the imagination that my mom gave me. And that is something that I still carry today. My imagination, my company is called Imagine We. My imagination is something that I believe has led me to stages like this and many others. My imagination is something that has created a platform for me to talk about issues in a way that, just like my mom did, she said, we're going on a vacation. I love my mom. I have a company. I am proud of my company. It's called Imagine We. We have a stand outside. Shameless publicity right now. Feel free to stand and support. We're outside with the other stands. But my company is not all that I am. My company is just a little part of who I am. I'll talk about it, but just briefly. When we started, I was 22, 2015, and my passion was just to refute the argument that if you want to hide something from an African, you must put it in a book. I heard that saying a lot of times. It was annoying. So I said, you know what, I can sit here and complain, or I can do something about it. So I quit my job from an organization that was quite prestigious at the time, and I was a fresh college graduate. I had all the energy in the world. So I decided, you know what, let's quit and make sure that Africans read. I don't know how to make Africans read. I didn't even know what I was talking about. I was telling my friend, Laure, I think it was a few weeks ago or something, the first thing that we got, was it Laure that I told this? I got 2 chairs, I got a laptop, and I got a table. And then I sat down and I was like, okay, let's start. And I had zero idea on what was next. Here I have 2 chairs, a laptop, and a table, and I have no idea what is going to be next. And that's why I'm so grateful that 4 years down the line, the company is still running and growing. When we started, we asked friends, family, anybody who would listen, hey, give us books. We need to help Africans read. We set up a library in an area where most of the children we attended to were fruit vendors' children, prostitutes' children, and just whoever, people who did odd jobs, blue collars. And one thing that I learned from the outside, as much as I thought that I didn't want to, I went in with a savior mentality. I am the best, the better one. You need to listen to me. Read books, it will help you. That's the mentality I took into that community. A community of people who sang songs that were different from the ones I sang. And I didn't have the humility to listen to what they were singing. It took me a while. So after a while, these kids were just like, no, we don't understand the books. The kids in the books don't look like us. And I started realizing, you know what, I'm trying to tell these kids that you need to look like this or speak this language to be a hero. And that was a slap across my face, because no, you can be fully and explicitly who you are and still be a hero in your community. And I was taking away their voices. That's how I went backwards, and I said, with my team, of course, my awesome, awesome team. They're also outside. You guys can go say hi. Let's change that. We had very little money. We hosted a fundraiser and decided, let's open up a publishing house. The publishing house will represent our Rwandan stories, will represent our African stories, not as numbers. When I see a farmer, I know he's somebody's uncle. I know he's somebody's brother. When somebody else from the outside of Rwanda or outside of Africa sees a farmer, they see a number, they see poverty, they see how can we help. And it was high time for us to start writing the stories from our own perspective. How do we love? How do we grow businesses? How do we do what we do in a dignified perspective? So I am human, I am African, and I am a storyteller. I hunt for stories and experiences. I'm always trying to go out there, traveling, listening, because I, for one, know that I don't have all the answers. What is working for me might not work for you. So it took me some time to realize I just need to sit down, listen to what has worked for you, listen to your experience, and honor it for what it is, and inspire you. Hopefully, by learning that I went through all these things, I did this, and I was able to create something that is of value, will give you the strength. But I will never be caught saying, this is what works. Because what works for me doesn't work in your country or in your area or in your perspective. I was in Somalia recently, and that's one of the experiences that really changed who I am. And I always tell my friends this. I saw women who had gone through FGM, female genital mutilation. For those who don't know, they chop off everything. And I had only listened to this through articles or blogs or TED Talks. I had never met a woman who actually has gone through that. And of course, in my head, my life was the better life. And I had to have the humility to sit down and listen to what they go through. And listening to what people go through. There was a bombing within 10 minutes that morning. But then listening again, I keep saying it, listening to the songs they were singing. They're not singing songs with a beat. What is their heart telling? What is their heart reciting? And how can I honor that without having that mentality of poor people, oh my God, how can we save them? You know. So I listened to these women, and I was so humbled to realize, who in the world am I to even think that I can come with a solution for you? The least I can do is say, stand up. You are worth something. And to hope that they will stand. So I hunt for these experiences to try to listen, to try to honor, and to try to be authentic. I am a small part of the world. It's a song we sang graduating from high school. And the world is so big that when we come together, there is so much to share. We don't need to rob each other. We don't need to push each other down. We are so tiny that if we lift each other up, there is still so much height to achieve. There's still so much higher that we can go. I would like for us to be unafraid and to be brave enough to lift each other up, be it in business, especially Africans. We try so hard to feed ourselves first. We see this in governments. You get into the parliament and you're like, oh my God, I gotta buy that car, house, I need. And we don't think we don't think of our children. Because we think that we are so poor, yet we're not. My hope is that we will learn to lift each other up. My hope is that we will learn to listen and to honor others' stories. My hope is that some of us will take a pen and share these stories and contact us so that we can publish them for you. But Africa, let's lift each other up. If you see something that is done by your brother, lift it up. Someone tweeted recently that you will never understand how far a like and a retweet will take somebody's business. Yet we hold them. We hold them as Rwandans. I have experienced that firsthand. We hold all these things. Let's give, because the world has so much and there's no ceiling. You don't have to live to put somebody down. So anyway, my name is Dominique, like I said. I am learning to embrace who I am, especially my last name, Alonga. It means victor, actually. It means that I conquer. I am a writer. I am an author. My book is outside if you guys want to get a copy. And I am trying to represent who we are for who we truly are. For that, I need to learn to listen. For that, I need to learn to sit down and see who you are. My favorite Hindu word is namaste, which is my soul greets the greatness in you. I see you. And I hope that we will learn to see each other, to listen to each other, and to do work in a way that lifts as many people as possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dominique, for such an inspiring story about identity and finding yourself within the world. And speaking of likes, retweets, and everything, we have a hashtag here. It's hashtag YCA2018. You can also see it here. Please tweet, like, retweet on Twitter. And moving on the questions, do we have some questions in the room? Not just from the DRC. We'd like to hear from the other parts of Africa. Yes, one question here from DRC and another question from the lady here. Can we have microphones given to the two of them? Please, again, keep it to one question and then introduce yourself and the country. Thank you.
Je suis Gédéon Monziguero, comme je l'ai dit avant. Je suis content de voir ma sœur. Que Dieu te bénisse. Alors, la question, elle est liée à justement le travail qu'elle fait. Elle a dit qu'elle est historiste. This is what you said.
Storyteller.
Yeah. Et elle a aussi des origines mélangées, congolaises et rwandaises. Et à ce niveau, et parce que quelqu'un a donné les conseils, il a dit pour mieux aller, il faut oublier le passé et bouger vers ce qui est futur. Entre nous deux, les deux pays, nous avons déjà quelque chose qui est en train d'avancer en termes de business. Et ça, c'est bon, parce qu'il y a des business qui se font au Rwanda et au Congo, et les gens vivent comme ça, et ça marche très bien. Ce n'est pas comme avant. Mais vous, comme quelqu'un qui donne, qui narre l'histoire, il y a un élément sur lequel on n'est pas encore en train d'avancer, et je le dis parce que nous sommes jeunes, c'est que dans les églises au Congo, quand on présente les mariages, on dit la sœur vient de Bukavu ou elle vient de Goma. Et on ne dit jamais la sœur vient, je ne vois jamais dire la sœur ou le frère vient de Kigali ou vient de quelque part. Je ne sais pas si ici ça se fait. Donc je pense qu'il y a un niveau où on n'est pas en train d'avancer, c'est le niveau de cette collaboration. Pourquoi il n'y a pas de mariage entre Congolais et Rwandais? Et nous les Congolais, je vais vous le dire, ça c'est très réel, nous les Congolais, nous aimons Rwandais. Alors, vous comme en tant que narratrice de l'histoire, comment pouvez-vous narrer une histoire qui nous lie, nous les jeunes Congolais, aux jeunes Rwandais, afin que nous traversions ces mythes et que nous parvenions à nous marier et dépasser l'histoire qui existe entre nous? Merci.
Slide into the DM, hey. Ça, c'est une question. Wait, what? yeah, that's a very interesting question. I wouldn't know what to say to that. The only thing I think works is right now, Youth Connect, places like this, the more people meet, the more people have the potential to have friendships, to have meaningful relationships, to have meaningful things. But another thing I would say is, for Congo and Rwanda and many places in Africa, somebody is telling our story. Somebody is coming in and say, oh, Congo people are dying. Right now, when I think about Congo, because I haven't returned since 1997, yes, is war. Because I'm reading books that were written by foreigners. So if you tell your story and I read that story, I might see a different version of Congo, right? When somebody, a stranger, read the story of Rwanda, they see genocide. I remember going somewhere and somebody said, oh, Rwanda, machete. You know, that's a long time ago, but like, somebody our story. So the more we tell our stories, we will be unafraid. I'm very scared of going to Congo because of the stories I'm hearing. But what if you told your story, the stories of, you know, Force de Frappe, Fali Poupa and all that. If we see you guys for who you are, I think more people will start moving to your country and creating those relationships. So again, let's tell our stories.
Thank you very much, Dominique. Our last question.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Agibou, je viens de la Guinée, République de Guinée, Conakry. Moi, c'est pas une question que j'ai à poser, mais c'est plutôt, j'aimerais intervenir un peu. Like they say it in Africa, everything is bad, everything is bad. Like everywhere you go, when you say that you've come from Africa, everybody just look at you like you're a monster. But I think we have also our hand inside. Because we, as a youth, we always go to conferences and everything. But when we start talking, like as a youth, we always say, no, there's nothing in Africa. But if we keep that in our mind, that saying that there's nothing in Africa, when it's going to change? Mm-hmm. It's have to start with us. Mm-hmm. So we have to start changing our mind, saying this Africa, always saying about negativity. We should start saying positive things. Like me, actually, I'm from Guinea-Conakry, and I can say that we have everything in our country. We have gold, we have diamond, we have petrol. Mm-hmm. But if I tell some people that there's no electricity in my country, you guys won't believe. Yeah. But we give in electricity to Nigerian people. Mm-hmm. Why we don't have electricity? We give in electricity to Malians. Why there is not electricity? Yeah. So actually, what we're trying as a youth is to change that. Yeah. And that will not come from our old brothers, our old fathers. It's going to start with us. So we have to know where we want to stand for tomorrow to raise our Africa, our home. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you've said a lot of wise words right there. If I could add to that is unity is going to be our biggest asset, you know. Gold, diamonds, and we have a lot of stuff in Africa. My gosh, we have everything, literally. But it won't matter if I don't like you. If like what I went through growing up when I was being called Umukongomani, Umuzairgwa, with a voice that said you should be ashamed. As long as Ghanaians and Nigerians fight over jollof, hello. But like, I think what I can say just very briefly is unity will be our biggest strength. And as much as you can, feed that. If you have extra cash, make sure you just go to Uganda or go to whatever country is next to you to learn their story and find the courage, the bravery in you to honor it. The more we actually interact with each other, the more we will be united. And the more we are united, markets will open up and Africa will grow stronger. I need to know I have a sister in Guinea-Conakry and a brother in Ghana, like a brother and a sister. You know, the more I have that security in my continent, I won't think about the US first. I'll think about my home. Africa is my home. So let's try to be united, and I think we'll drive this thing forward.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Dominique, and thank you for gracing us with your presence and your whole shirt and your amazing face. Thank you very much. So moving to our next speaker, she comes from Nigeria. Her name is Joyce Awosika. She's an entrepreneur, an economist, and a natural skincare expert. Yes, she has really good skin. She has a history of running companies, namely Oriki Group. Joyce is the former curator of the Abuja Hub's World Economic Forum Global Shaper, a nominee of the Future Awards Prize in Public Service for 2013 and 2016. She was selected into the African Leadership Network and a Tony Elumelo Entrepreneurship Program Fellow. She was also selected as one of Nigeria's 100 most inspiring women in 2017 and as a 2017 Woman of the Year for her network. Please join your hands to welcome Joyce Awosika on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start by saying it's such a privilege to be here, and I just want to commend the efforts of the Kigali Global Shapers for putting this together. I'm going to give a little disclaimer as I start. I was asked to speak a few hours ago, so I quickly just put this together for you guys, but I do hope that I'm able to share some nuggets. And I do understand the theme is all about our journey, inspiring, and how we can work together as youth. So as Yvonne said, my name is Joyce Awosika, and today I'll be speaking on the journey, my journey, from idea to execution. I just want to start by basically addressing the big elephant in the room. I'm sure you guys are wondering where my accent comes from, and that's a little bit about my background. I am proudly Nigerian. Both my parents are Nigerian. But in the 1980s, they found themselves moving to the United States, and they met at Howard University in DC. And they were of that generation of people that believed that the US was the great prize to obtain. I think it's quite different these days because all my peers, I'm convincing everyone to move to this part of the world. But back then, that was the big prize for them. So they got married in 1985 and had me shortly after. And I started my journey being born and raised in Washington, D.C. But I always knew I was Nigerian. I knew by my last name. I knew by the annual parties that they had every year with tons of Nigerians, the jollof rice, the spicy food that I didn't like, the accents, the aunties and uncles that came from Nigeria in the for holiday and that would share their stories about how there's no light and no electricity. These are part of things that I grew up hearing. And as I grew up, I had this keen interest in knowing more and more about my roots. It was really, really important to me. And there's 4 of us. And out of myself and my siblings, I was the only one who had that interest. No one knows why. But I believe I tie that into my faith. And I believe that that's part of what God's purpose is for me, actually. And that's the reason why I've always had this desire to know my roots and to be over here. When I was in my teens, my dad decided he was going to contest for senator in Nigeria. I didn't know how that was going to work, considering he lived in the United States. But when he made this declaration, I used to beg my dad every month that, could you please take me to Nigeria with you? This was at the age of 10. Could you please take me? I want to visit, I want to see. And he would always come up with some excuse. And my eagerness continued, and I would find myself reading books and talking to aunties and uncles, trying to learn as much as I could. Well, you'll hear in my story that I did obviously end up in this part of the world, but I also just share a little bit about me currently. I have 2 boys. They are 5 months and 18 months old, and I'm married to a businessman as well, based in Nigeria. And we both are not only in the hospitality sector, but we're in different sectors. And I think both of our dreams are essentially to create opportunities, jobs, contribute to the economy across Africa. So not just Nigeria, but across Africa. And as I mentioned before, my faith is what drives me. When I eventually moved to Nigeria, I had never been. And I remember people thinking I was crazy. I was working in New York And I had this job that to my parents, they were so proud of. I was trading energy on a desk at one of the Fortune 100 companies, and I just didn't feel fulfilled. I was very unhappy. I just kept hearing a small, still voice say, this is not where you're meant to be. But how do you say that when you've never been to where you think you're supposed to be? But I just felt like something was wrong. And I felt that I was going to continue to work for this Fortune 100 company, ultimately to increase their bottom line. But what was I contributing to the world? And not to sound like I believed I could save anyone or save the world, but I believed I had more to contribute and I had more impact to give and to share. And so when I ultimately decided to leave New York, it was on a day that they gave me a new project. They said, you know, Joycey, there's a huge company in the US, and they're looking at using renewable energy to power their stores across the United States. And I just thought, okay, so they said they're gonna move me onto this project, and I had to work on how we were going to price the commodity renewables. That's wind, hydro, solar. How are we gonna price it and sell it to them? I just kept thinking, but the Nigeria that I hear about, everyone talks about how there's no light, and here's this big company that wants to check off a box by saying we're green friendly and utilize renewables. That was the day I made the decision that I was going to leave the States. I hadn't told anyone yet, but then I started sharing with friends, not family first, friends, because I knew my family would be a whole nother force to fight with and reckon with. But basically, as I shared with friends, all I kept saying is, in the Bible that I read is the story of Abraham. And Abraham was told to go to a foreign land, and he didn't know where he was going, and he went. He just obeyed. And that was what led me and pushed me to go. So I went to Nigeria in 2012. Green, having never been. I found out a friend of mine was going to be moving around the same time, so I thought, okay, great, I have one person I know. I made a few phone calls to people who I'd met, you know, in my career that I knew went to Nigeria often, asked them what would be the best place. Should I choose Lagos? Should I choose Abuja? Those were the only two options for me. I ended up choosing Abuja, and that was how I ended up working for the government. So I thought, my parents are very concerned, my dad especially. Mommy's like, okay, I know you pray. God must have told you something, so I'll just be praying and supporting you. But my father was like, I really don't understand. This is not what I expected for you. I worked so hard for you to be here in the States. And I thought, okay, what I'll do to make him feel a little better is to get a job still within the power sector. I had studied energy economics, so I thought I would get a job working for one of the parastatals or organizations in Abuja, and that's what I did. Someone linked me, the power of networking, the power of collaboration. I met him at a Harvard Business Conference, maybe the year before. I reached out to him, found his business card, said, hey, thinking of moving to Nigeria. Where do you think I should go? And he said, wait, you can't be serious. And then he helped me. And I ended up getting a position working for one of the electricity regulators in Nigeria. And I did that for a couple years. And then I got hired to be an advisor to the Minister of Power. That was very exciting because I'm this young woman on this team. And I'm meeting people all around the world who essentially I'm able to discuss power sector with, and I was working on performance monitoring, and we were trying to privatize the power sector in Nigeria at this time. So it was a very good opportunity, and then 2014 hit, and 2015 was going to be an election year. And I felt, again, the same strong urge I felt a couple years before then to leave. I felt, you need to resign. This place has become safe for you, working for the government, and you need to build a company because that's how you're actually going to add value in Nigeria. And I kept saying, I can't do it. You know, my interest was really in all the abundance. Some of my fellow speakers have said today, the resources, this continent is so rich. So they excited me. And from a young age, I've always been interested in raw ingredients. And I just thought, okay, God, how am I going to build this business? Everyone's going to say, oh, she left from the power sector and went to the beauty sector. Oh, go figure. And I had to fight. I had to fight that constant thought those thoughts in my mind. And I had to tell myself, this is what I need to do if I want to create jobs, if I want to work towards a sustainable economy, if I want to make an impact. And so I started Oriki. And Oriki is an all-natural skincare brand. It's farm to skin, agro beauty, and we believe in essentially utilizing and harnessing the power of African-sourced ingredients. And we create finished goods. If I had time before, I would have brought some to show. But essentially, we believe in the fact that in Rwanda, for example, there's a nut here called maracujá, yes. And there are companies in the Western world who have literally found the power of this nut, created a cold-pressed oil, and are making billions. But where are our brands? Where are our proudly African brands that can do the same and can compete, can export to those parts of the world, and can build proudly African brands with quality and potency and efficacy? And so that's my vision for Oriki Group. We have 39 products and counting. We distribute in 4 countries right now, and we're growing. We also have the Oriki Spa, which for us is B2B. We're able to also utilize our products in the spas as well. So Oriki is trying to take Africa to the world. We're trying to leave a piece of Africa with every beauty consumer around the world, and that's our goal. Along this journey, I've experienced challenges, as we all have. Whatever is worth having never comes easy. Everything from when I first came, just not really understanding how things worked in Nigeria. I'm sure all of you guys have heard things about Nigeria, but just so many things were just confusing. I just didn't understand why streetlights, people were running streetlights. I didn't understand why electricity wasn't constant. I didn't understand so many things. People didn't understand me, and so there was a huge learning curve. But I wanted to share a few principles that have really, really blessed me, I would say, along the way. One is the spirit of volunteerism. I've learned so much, not from jobs that I've been hired in, but just from volunteering to be a part of something. So today they asked me, Tracy, could you please speak? I said yes. I hadn't prepared, but I spent some time to prepare right before, and I decided to share, right? But along my journey, there are some things that are part of my profile or part of my resume that are things that I actually volunteered for. And I think you learn a lot. And that even transcends to when you're looking to potentially have a mentor. What value can you bring to that mentor? Can you volunteer in the organization? Can you volunteer to help them out with something? If you see a loophole in what they're doing, are you able to share your thoughts? Those are all voluntary examples of volunteering, and they've really helped me along the way. Relentlessness. I've faced so many obstacles. I remember when I was first wanted to open my first Oriki location, my first storefront and spa. The landlord said to me, who do you think you are? Is there any man who's backing you? And I looked at him in his face and I said, what do you mean? He goes, I can't rent this place to you if you don't show me a fiance or a husband or someone, or you tell me what your last name is so I can validate who you are. And I just thought to myself, why are we facing these challenges? I want to give you money to rent this location. And this is your response to me. You know, that's one example. There's so many in Nigeria and on the continent. You know, we've talked about issues with trade. I struggle right now with the issue of being able to export and how expensive it is. Even the nuts that I'm talking about here in Rwanda, how to easily access them. But through it all, I continue to push, to persevere, and to persist. And I think there's something to say of that, because everyone that we look to, that we want to emulate, they all have stories of being relentless. Thirdly, it's passion. There's a saying that says, you're not working if you're pursuing your passion, because your passion is something that fuels your drive. And so I wake up every day happy and excited to fulfill my quota in this universe. And it's my passion that drives me. My passion to see farmers grow. My passion to add value, add more streams of income to farmers. As Oriki grows, our farmers that we work with grow. All the hands that are connected across the chain of building my business, you know, I'm passionate about that as well. And lastly, here is learning. Never stop learning. Never stop learning. If someone was to open my iPhone or my iPad right now, they'd see just podcasts open, my iBooks open. Safari page full of 15 different websites that just probably have me Googling different things that I want to come back to. I bookmark everything. This forum is an example of active learning coming here. And for me, it's not even the panels and the plenaries, it's meeting you guys and meeting people in the room. And like Dominique said, having a brother or a sister any part of the world, that's what the Global Shapers Network has done for me. I was a former curator in 2014, and in that year we hosted Shape Africa, which actually was the first Shape Africa, and it was an amazing experience. And today and yesterday, I'm seeing so many shapers that I met over the years. I know that if I need to go to Kigali, I can call on my Kigali shaper brothers and sisters. I can call on Atu in Ghana. If I need, I can call on Nicola, who spoke yesterday. If I need to go to Zimbabwe, it's powerful. Never stop learning. Always learn. It's important. And e-learning is also, I feel like it's the next big wave. Online courses, whatever you want to learn, you can probably learn online. And also create your own online courses as well if you have something to give. It's another stream of income, and it's also a powerful way to learn and engage with others around the world. I'll just run through this slide. Success in the future for me, planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Plan. I do agree with Dominique, who said that, you know, along the way, your dreams might change. Yesterday, I got an idea for something I want to do in the next couple months or years. I didn't have this idea before, but basically you can plan, but you also have to be a bit able to adapt to things and opportunities that come your way. Habits. What are your habits? Do you pledge every month to read a book or 2 books? Do you have a habit of making sure you check in with your loved ones at least a couple times a week? Make sure everyone's doing okay. There's a big theme around the world right now about mental health and mental wellness. Are we checking in with one another? Are you asking, like, are you okay? No, really, are you okay? Not just, you want to hear, yeah, I'm fine. You know, are we really encouraging discourse and asking those questions? So what are your habits? I would suggest writing down habits you want to begin to imbibe, and then work on doing them for 30 to 60 days straight. It eventually becomes something that's ingrained in you. Analyze everything. Think through, strategize. I have a notes folder I was sharing with Atu earlier on my iPhone. I think I have about 700 notes. I literally just write notes as people are talking, and then I go back to them and say, how can I fit this in? How can I do this? I want to connect with my global shaper in Nairobi later, because she was talking about some ideas of raw materials and trade, and just analyze and go back and strategize as well. And then your ambition. Ambition is important. Ambition is what fuels you. Ambition is what drives you. What is your ambition? What do you ultimately, if, God forbid, you were to pass tomorrow, what do you want someone to say about you? What's the legacy you want to leave? And these things are very important to keep in mind. And my ambition drives me. When I sit and have team meetings every Monday, I think about what I want people to say about me when I'm gone, and what I want my boys to say about their mother. And last but not least, I just left with 3 nuggets. Don't underestimate the power of collaborations. There is a saying, an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Collaborate, partner. In this room, there are probably people who are doing things in raw materials, natural resources, just like I am. How can we work together? I'm open. Create an advisory board for your business, if you have one, and your life. Your network is your net worth, and learn from those around you. So essentially, I have an advisory board. I have people I check with. When they told me I was going to speak here, there are people I sent a quick WhatsApp to. Just saying, hey, I'm about to do this. Any nuggets? Who's on your advisory board? Who's on the team with you? Who's pushing you along the way? Who's cheerleading you and genuinely cheerleading? And then last, fight, but not in a violent way. Never give up. As the hashtags have been saying, Africa starts with us. Africa starts with me. Fight your way through it. No matter what the obstacles and challenges are, you can do it. So who's with me?
Thank you very much, Joyce. Thank you very much for your inspiring story, all the way from America to actually Abuja now. And do we have, for timekeeping, I will allow people to quickly ask the question and keep it to one question. Thank you. And could we have some microphones for the participant? Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Joyce, for your inspirational story. I would like you to actually tell me what's that one or two things that have kept you a multitasker? Because just your story tells you that you are a multitasker. So what are that one or two things that have helped you achieve that? Thank you.
Okay, great. Should I answer? Okay. One thing is my faith. That's just the truth. I believe that I'm never given more than I can handle. So with all the opportunities that come up, all the things I have to handle for businesses, I don't believe that it's beyond me. So that's one thing. That's mentally what drives me, what keeps me going. On a more applicable way, honestly, I would talk about calendar. Like I literally I have a calendar, right? And on my calendar has everything that I'm going to do on each day. So the moment I open an email, for example, and it says meeting next Friday at this time, if I've accepted that meeting at that moment, it's added to my calendar. Even simple things as check in with my 18-month-old son's school on XYZ, it's my calendar. And I set it in a way that it gives me alerts 2 hours before and 30 minutes before, so I don't miss a beat. And those are two things.
My name is Jasper Mwana from Zimbabwe. I'm very impressed by your experience in life, and you're actually one of the few people that have come back to your community to make some change. I think the fact you say that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. It's something that is important. But I think we're creating two distinct types of youth in the next generation. The ones that have got exposure to go abroad and come back, and those that we are many in the rural communities who would not get such opportunities like the ones you have. From your story, I can tell you that it's not easy to go for a business conference in Harvard for an typical African youth. I think we as the youth, we should also measure in that. Can you do something, a foundation, about those that are in need in your country that should benefit from the exposure that you have and the connections that you have? Yeah, I also think that we should serve the youth that are eligible or that are competent, not those that are not those that are connected. So that is my view from my end. But I appreciate your support, and I think that's the way to go. Whoever has gone to Europe, across, if you come back to Africa, any country, you're given priority over the people that are in the country. Like I can tell you, we are proudly African, but not on education. If I apply without a CV that indicates I'm from America or I've learned in London, I don't get an opportunity like people that have learned abroad. I think it's what also as a government and yourself should also consider to reshape and change things in the future.
Awesome. That's a very great point. I like to say to that first, definitely I believe as a global shaper, one of the initiatives that we had was to impact the youth there by giving them opportunities, something that's called an EEP program, Employability and Entrepreneurship Program, and basically working with the youth there to ensure that they have exposure and that they're able to come up to, gain opportunities outside. I'd also say that things are changing. There's so many opportunities, whether it be Tony Alumu Entrepreneurship, Mandela Fellows, so many things out there that people can grab. And I do agree that obviously there's definitely different opportunities and definitely for different people, but I'm definitely committed to ensuring that within my country, I'm able to impact as many lives as possible. The last time I gave a discussion like this was to a foundation, the Joan Aga Foundation, that does exactly that. They help women who are actually, in rural areas and who need to get exposure and help them in many ways as possible, from entrepreneurship to professional grooming to CV writing and all that. So, great point.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Joycey. Thank you very much for gracing us here. Please remember to keep hashtagging YCA 2018, and one of us have iPhones, Samsungs, one of these tablets here. So moving on to our next shaper. Let me read my notes. He comes from Sudan. His name is Ahmed Mohamed El Mutada El Amin Abdallah, and he is the co-founder of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Community in Sudan. Ahmed is a cybersecurity engineer with over 5 years of experience in technology and startups. Currently, Ahmed is the Middle East and North Africa Regional Director of Startup Grind, a global startup community powered by Google, designed to educate, inspire, and connect entrepreneurs. The community spans over 350 cities in 120 countries to connect 1 million entrepreneurs. Ahmed is also the International Affairs Coordinator of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Community, a national youth-driven NGO formed in 2013, promoting entrepreneurial activity among Sudanese youth. Please welcome Ahmed on the stage.
Hello, everybody. Yeah. So my name is Ahmed, and I'm coming from Sudan, from Khartoum. I'm a cybersecurity engineer by profession and a co-founder of innovation hub in Sudan called 249 Startup. So I'm here today to tell you a story about our generation in Sudan. So Sudan have been very well known about conflicts, about wars, about poverty, high rates of unemployment, and a lot of issues that tackle in our country, which lead after that to separation of Sudan to another South Sudan. A lot of negative energy, a lot of people died, a lot of histories, measures. By being someone working in technology, and I know how powerful connecting markets and connecting business could do. Now imagine being from a generation that have been lived in a country that you cannot have access to payments, you cannot have access to sending money through banks for any other country, because they have been entitled in the sanctions from the United States, and that not only affect an ability to have online payments and sending bank transfer or everything or stuff like this. Even it limit the access for people to health, it limit the access for people to education, it even limit the access for people for getting information, Coursera, edX. You cannot access those websites or even get education, certification, whatever that need to do with the United States. So that was a sanction since 1993. Since the sanction had been lifted last November, but it's still a lot of people currently on the 20s of their age, they lack fundamentals and issues. And just to give you a brief about Sudan. So Sudan is a country of 41 millions. Out of 41, with 28 millions with access to internet. No ever United States company based working in Sudan, no big companies you find in Sudan, all local companies. In terms of age groups, Sudan is 40.8% under the age of 18, and that's related to the World Bank statistics since, for the last year. Now imagine all these nation-driven youth with a lot of depression, a lot of an ability to express their things, the innovations, the ideas that they want to do. So the current setup is done in terms of payment. And why I'm pushing on payment? Because imagine a country that can export businesses from its country to all other countries and getting the money for that, especially for countries in Africa. Take a market in the United States or in Europe or in Asia, and you get your exports and you get a lot of money, but you cannot even get that products or that service to your country due to this limitation. The current setup in Sudan is that there is a local network of payments, but you cannot do anything outside of that. But in the middle of that, there have been people that trying to change in the way that our country is living by introducing people through tourism of how we have a pyramids, over 100 pyramids that nobody knows about, even in history, is a long way back in history. There have been a tremendous rising of a culture. It's in Sudan that the Middle East is meeting Africa, and it's in Sudan that we have a mix of people from colors, shapes, and different resources. In agriculture, one note that people may not know that Sudan is the country that produces over 85% of the world production of the gum Arabic, but it got resell under the other names of other countries due to the sanction thing, because they cannot export outside. So a lot of issues, a lot of things that people cannot achieve. In the middle of all this, there have been a rising of people trying to spread the culture of the country, doing fashion products, accessories, trying to make a living just on the very basic level in their countries. People come in and go trying to share all this. So what they were missing are very fundamental skills, very fundamental networks, very fundamental access to investments. So I'm coming from an organization called IEC, which stands for Innovation and Entrepreneurship Community, and that organization target was just to enable those youth to know how they can take the entrepreneurship as a life and create more jobs, a more sustainable economy, and help more people from the poverty to a better living conditions. What we are doing was simply started in 2013, totally volunteers. No one get paid anything, just doing awareness, doing workshops, trying to get people to listen what the words of entrepreneurship mean, and that's it. Come attend with us some small events. We started by contacting global leading organizations, get the content from them, and from that we customize that based on our culture, based on our people. Doing the 3 days hackathons, get developers, business people, mentors, and just go home by the end of the weekend. Additional stuff. Way forward, after 4 years of working, conducting such events, we are exceeding of a network that we do a summit that been reached by over 4,000 from the Sudanese youth and outside Sudan, connecting students, investors, startups, connecting entrepreneurs and employees as well. It became the #1 place for everybody to join. Not only in the capital Khartoum, also in the 13 other states in the country, trying to increase the awareness about the entrepreneurship. And when I'm saying increase the awareness about the entrepreneurship to the level that people are not able to spell the word at that beginning. In Sudan, there is no accelerations, no incubators, no hubs, not even the word of known of investors, of angel investor or capitalism. Nobody knows about that term yet. So our work was developing about that, and we created the very first study to study who we are actually, what is our issues, what is pushing us back. We have a lot of resources, we have big resources, a lot of talents, and a youth-driven country. So we made the research, and the output of that research was that we wanted to build something that could get all people together. One of the recommendations that we reach out of this is trying to change some of the policies in the country. After 4 years of working in the community, we reached the level that we are enabling the ecosystem in Sudan by getting the private sector, the government, the startup all in one place and create some sort of dialogues. And after that, we help those entrepreneurs by providing them with investments or mentorship training, connecting them, and also sending them for exposure, sending them to Ghana, sending them to Turkey, to Dubai, to United States. And as I said, all this was a voluntary work. At the beginning of this year, we found that the community had become more mature to the words of entrepreneurship. We started a hub called 249 Startups, inspired by 500 startups. So the 249 is the Sudan key when you call from Sudan, and the vision is to be the gateway for the Sudanese startups to go from Sudan to outside and vice versa. To support the ecosystem by providing them with mentors, financial services, legals, and investments, and connecting them with the other people. This is the hub that we launched in Khartoum, where we have all the startups spending their time there, sharing spaces, sharing meeting rooms, financial services, and they span over 25 founders, 8 startups, and over a network of 20 mentors. And going forward to some of the program is, which we consider one of our achievements, is that we were able to change the mindsets of the corporates that work in the country from providing it as a, providing the money as a CSR or as a branding budget to actually to invest and go into a collaboration with us to build the programs that it end with them giving investments to these young entrepreneurs. And one example that I want to actually give is one of the companies that we know, one of the companies that came through the alumni program that we have. So as I said, we don't have United States companies. That means there is no Uber in market like Sudan. So some young people tried to, okay, how about we try to start a ride-sharing company in Sudan? We're having a network of over 28 million internet users in the country. So Terhal is an Arabic name for transport. So they started this 2 years back, and when they started, until today, they are reaching over 16,000 captains on an actively daily basis. And what's interesting about them is that they didn't took the model as it is in Sudan, because the culture is different itself. The very interesting about Terhal was they were having a product, it's called Nawaim. It's a Arabic word for a soft. It's a product specialized for women. The captain is a woman and the passenger is a woman, and only that. That actually provide them with over 70% of their revenue, providing them with most of the market share that they got, because they understood that the culture in the country is depending on this. Today they are the leading in the country, and to the level that we had a company, it's called Kareem. Kareem is a Dubai-based unicorn. By unicorn, I mean it's an over 1 billion valuation company. It's the main rival for Uber in the Middle East. And despite the sanctions and all this stuff, these guys are trying to enter the country, and they try to buy the local startup. And just to conclude with this is, we believe there is a very huge market in our country, and what we give to our people and our startups now is that we want you to focus on your current problems, and you can grow. You can grow, and you can build, and you can solve solutions, and can solve problems that is in our country, and even in the sub-Saharan region as well. And this will be their main benefits, because until today, Terhal is operating with Kareem and competing together, and they have the advantage of already knowing the country and trying now to expand to Ethiopia and all these countries. Thank you.
A round of applause for Kareem. A round of applause for Kareem. Thank you very much for sharing all the potential that your country, Sudan, has, and showing how, as Africans, we can always invest in our own markets and create the entrepreneurial ecosystem in our own region. And Ahmed is our last speaker, so we'll have our last round of questions. As again, I will allow 2 questions. With a show of hand, the lady with the microphones will bring the microphones to you. Please introduce yourself, the country you're coming from, and then you can ask your question. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Regis, and I'm from Benin Republic. My question is about Uber. What kind of Uber you have in your country? I want to know how people pay that money, how they go online to pay. It's about that your startup you created in your country.
Yeah, got you. So to answer that question, and going back to the point is, the benefit of the local companies that going from our countries, from all around Africa, is that they understand their community better. So the company that I mentioned, they don't use online payment, they use cash. You pay cash when the trip is over. I hope I answer your question. Yeah. So they don't have a model of online payment at all. When you go into the ride, when you reach, you pay them cash and you just go. And just to add to that, that actually created the jobs so that actually people left their full-time job in Sudan to work at the full-time in these companies, because it generated them much more money. from that. They have a model that they take from the captain a deposit in advance. Like, for example, take for them 1,000, and whenever you complete a trip, they take 10% out of that. So when your credit reaches zero, you need to come again, you pay them in advance. This is how they make their money.
Next question, the gentleman over there, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Jeff. I'm coming from Botswana. I've been listening to a couple of presentations, but one thing that I'm not getting very clearly is that how are we coping as individual entrepreneurs in terms of doing business in our countries? You'd find that at times our countries, we do import a lot of goods and services. And I can tell you that in Botswana, that is one of the challenges that we have, where the government will be spending about 50 billion a year in terms of importing. One thing that we lack, you'd find that all the presenters who came here, even yesterday, you don't talk about the learnings that we did acquire from a young age. We're having a gap. We're having you here today, and you're getting old. Obviously, at some point, you'll no longer be on the stage. The young people who are in the rural areas, who are in the primary schools, these are the people who are coming now. We want to learn and understand how you manage to get such entrepreneurial culture. How can we cultivate it in our young people so that they can be in the stage as yourselves? Some of you have managed to be business people at older ages, and you have not managed, obviously, to be able to leverage on the energy of your minds. One of the things that we need to talk about is, can we develop such the culture in our young people, young at primary school? It can be the games that they can be able to play at primary school to cultivate that entrepreneurial culture within their minds. Secondly, it's the conversations are very much good. You'd wonder, can there be that opportunity probably next year to have, hear the governments themselves? Because, I know at times you'd be having all the, the incisiveness, the precisions, the commitment, but the regulatory framework within the countries are becoming a challenge. So I think it's something that we may be thinking, probably the organizers going forward, to say, let us have not only the young people here, let us have the governments, the organizations to come here to say, how can we make it happen? Because you are having different countries in the whole continent, and some of them are not making it the way you guys are making it. But you are talking about Africa being just one village. How can we be able to work at the same pace, at the same level? Can we believe that, because 2 or 3 of you guys came on stage here and you talked about some of the challenges that we have had in terms of the civil wars and that, can that be a remedy to be able to get entrepreneurship, to get that commitment that you need to go through that phase? The answer may be no. But I think we can still, have that conversations to say, what is it that we need to do as a bigger continent? Because, we work so much in silos. We work so much and we don't seem to be working as a compact. And you can see that, putting us together, there is a serious cocktail or bouquet of opportunities that we can be able to leverage from. There are so many different competitive edges across the countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. Start with the first one, is related to the education and how to impress the culture. Maybe on a very long dialogue, but making short, one of the things we were trying to do at that time is to bring the people from the government, the private sector, and the universities. Is after putting that research, it's a research with the evidence and everything. You put them in their table, and one of the research shows that the lake was actually as part of the curriculum, because at least for our side, our curriculum had been made since the colonialism years back to produce Sudanese to work as an employee in the government. It wasn't mentioned for them to work as independent. And this was actually, when they review it, it's actually one of the things out there. but at least they finally catching up to try to add entrepreneurship as part of the things. For what we do, at least what we at least trying to do, we design a small type of programs, 3-4 days programs, creativity, about innovation, about stuff like, for people between the 10 years old to 16 years old, to give them just this trigger. And we hope that they develop that after that, but at least give them the exposure and give them the mixing with the others. I think the second question was about how people would go to this, and I think for ourselves, at least in our country, taking a no as a answer is not acceptable, because if you didn't do it yourself, nobody will do it, and you cannot actually. This is the only way, like, to live, to survive, and even to help others. This is your only way. There is no way else. I think this is the culture that people from such struggles or economic issues or they came up with this mindset. They can't give up because there is no other option. And I think there is another factor that has been shown in our research. It was related to how our community was social connected community, the family, the support of the family. So for them it's very much needed, not only to work for themselves, but also for their family. That's why they work to jobs they trying to get, because they just can't give up. I think this is my answer.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, and thank you. Another round of applause for Ahmed and all our speakers today. Before we conclude, one word that we've been hearing, and it's an organization called the Global Shapers. So before we close, I'd like to invite our curator, Mr. Israel Bimbe. He's the curator for the Kigali Hub, and he will tell you and have the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. This session was co-organized by the Youth Connect Organizing Committee and the Kigali Shapers in particular. The Kigali Hub, or the Global Shapers community, was established by the World Economic Forum to be a platform for young people to be able to engage policymakers, to engage business leaders in order to contribute to the country's development, the continent development, and the world in general. We participate as young people who have otherwise no access to leadership forums or leadership meetings and so on and so forth at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the World Economic Forum on Africa, and so on and so forth, to represent the voice of the young people and the voice of entrepreneurs, or the voice of young people in general. And one challenge that the gentleman who spoke last gave us is, how do we carry along everyone, and how do we represent that voice of people in rural areas and people who are otherwise not able to attend an event like this one, unless we really make sure we make a lot of efforts to bring them along with us. And one takeaway of these talks, when we get people to come here and share their stories, and why we choose this format, is because there is more you can learn when someone speaks about what they've gone through and what they're currently doing on a personal level, so that it helps you and it helps most of us to be able to interact, exchange, and find opportunities to collaborate. And we've been doing this even last year in Youth Connect, and we hope to improve it and do even more of this next year. And I hope you had a great time, and you kind of were inspired by the talks that the individuals who came here on stage talked about. It's very wide range, from entrepreneurship to just working in a career work type of work, to doing different kinds of industries and so on and so forth. And I would like to thank you so much for making it here. Please reach out to everyone who is a Global Shaper. Should raise their hands so that you may ask them questions. The Global Shapers in the room, just raise your hands. Okay, they are here in front, and they are from different cities, so just make sure you ask them the questions that you need and what you need to be able to join a hub in your city, or just check globalshapers.org, and it has all information that you may need. I hope you are enjoying Youth Connect, and for those who are visiting Rwanda, I hope you are enjoying your stay in Rwanda. Tonight is a party night, and please make sure to attend the concert. It's the best and the finest of Rwanda who will be entertaining you. And please let us know if there is anything more that we can do for you to have just the best of the stays that you are having here in Rwanda. And we are hosting the Global Shapers tomorrow for a dinner, so we are doing a lot more than that. So have a great rest of the day and keep enjoying your stay here and keep enjoying the conference. And please give a big round of applause for Ivan, who have moderated this. On that, thank you so much and enjoy today.
There is a human migration underway, possibly the greatest one of all time. And it's to somewhere we all know, the city.